So recently I went to Japan for the third time. This was my first trip back since COVID. I had previously gone in 2018 and 2019, and I had booked a trip for 2020, but obviously I didn't get to go. I once again went to Tokyo. I know I am long overdue to go somewhere else, but the prices for Osaka were sizably higher than for Tokyo, and frankly, I just needed to get back out there once again. I wanted to share with you some of what I did, what my experiences were like, and possibly some advice for those of you who want to get out there yourself someday. So I'm going to kind of go through this in chronological order of my trip, starting with takeoff. Now, I flew Hawaiian Air, or I was supposed to. An hour after we were supposed to board the plane, they told us there was going to be a 12-hour delay. Fortunately, those of us who were traveling internationally, they worked with us and found other flights. I instead flew Delta, and silver lining is I actually landed in Tokyo earlier in the day than I would have. So I got to do a little bit more that first night. Now, one of my first things I ever do when I get to Tokyo is, after I get to my hotel, drop off my stuff, clean up real quick, because 12, 13 hours of flight time, you feel pretty gross afterwards. I go out to Akihabara. No plans whatsoever. I like to go get a beef bowl at Matsuya, which you may know from the Yakuza series. It is actually a real place. After that, I just kind of roam around Akihabara, check out the various anime merchandise stores, the doujin shops, whatever. It feels like making a pilgrimage. So that was my first night. The next 2 days were Tokyo Disney Sea and Tokyo Disneyland. What was fantastic was that because it's Halloween, guests were allowed full costume. And I saw many cases of just regular guests dressed up just like the Disney princesses. You wouldn't know that they weren't staff members. It was so nice to see all kinds of other costumes, but just the festivity of it and the fact that it's even allowed is so cool to see. Disney Sea's really cool. I highly recommend going out there if you like theme parks at all. It's not overly Disney, so I really recommend it. After that, Tokyo Disneyland. It's very similar to the American Disneyland. Honestly, even as a Disney fan, I think it's pretty skippable. However, they do have that brand new Beauty and the Beast ride. I ended up waiting in line for almost 2 hours. I had every intention of paying for the line skip pass. However, it sells out very quickly. And frankly, that ride is the best Disney ride ever. It's just amazing what they've pulled off in there. I recommend checking that out. Definitely get the pass because it's only like $10, and $10 is worth not waiting 2 hours in line. After that, we're now on October 18th, Saturday. First thing I did that day was I visited the Suginami Animation Museum. There's some really cool exhibits. They had like replicas of desks of famous anime artists, like how they had it set up, people who worked on stuff like Cowboy Bebop, Ghost in the Shell, classic series. They had some cool statues of like the Evangelion characters, these other characters that I don't even know. There was probably a sign, and I probably read it at the time, but I don't remember. There was a lot of focus on how anime is made, a room where you could even try drawing yourself. They even had a dubbing room, which you could do the voiceover in certain animes like Astro Boy, and it was set up for both English and Japanese. It was a really cool experience. It was free. I ended up buying some stuff. I actually bought an art book from someone who worked on Cowboy Bebop. After that, I went to Kichijoji. There is actually this really cool pizza place that operates out of a VW bus. It's very unique. It's not like what I think Americans would be used to for pizza. It's more like the traditional style. But for 700 yen, about $5, you get a pretty sizable pizza. And they had really unique flavors. I got bacon and potato, and it was really good. Great place to go check out. In that same area, I was kind of browsing around Sun Road. It's kind of just a marketplace, but over there I swung by a Mr. Donut. When I'm in Japan, I go to Mr. Donut almost daily, and it's so good. So good. And then the big important part of that day was out in Kodaira. I managed to get a ticket to go see Masayoshi Takanaka. He's a really fantastic guitarist and one of my favorite musicians now. I had not planned my trip around this, but after I had booked my tickets, I was looking at concerts, and it just happened he was there, and I absolutely could not miss that opportunity. And it was a really amazing concert. He played for over 2 hours. He is an older gentleman, and I can say the average age in the room was probably like 65. Me and all those senior citizens there were extremely excited to see him perform. That crowd had more energy than most concerts I've ever been to, and I go to a lot of metal concerts, rock concerts, whatever. This is a room full of senior citizens, and they're just constantly clapping along with the music. They are really, really getting into it. And at the end of it, this guy next to me, 65, 70, somewhere in that range, Japanese, we can't communicate with each other, but we were clearly both way into the music. He actually put his hand up to give me a fist bump, and it was such a nice moment of that, like, really showing you that how much music connects us. Because we can't speak the same language. That music connected us in that moment. After that, I actually went to a place called Yakiniku Like. Now, you may know what Yakiniku is. It's the place where they just serve you raw meat and you grill it up yourself. Yakiniku Like is more focused on being an individual experience. You have your own little stall, you order what you want, because generally yakiniku is a group activity, but this way it's more for, do you want to just go by yourself? You're all set. I knew it was a chain, but I was surprised that throughout the rest of my trip, I just constantly kept seeing other yakiniku likes. So they are all over the country. So if you go to Japan, I definitely recommend looking for one. You will find one, and it's worth checking out. Now, the next day, we're October 29th, Sunday. Originally, part of my plans were to go to Shibuya on Halloween night, because if you don't know, it gets to be a bit of a party there. Everybody's dressed up. It's not anything official. You just end up with this really interesting parade of people in costumes. However, this year, the local government very specifically told people to not do that, telling foreigners to please not visit Shibuya on Halloween night, and let the locals be able to live their lives. With that in mind, I ended up switching things around. So I ended up going to Shibuya and Harajuku on the 29th instead of Halloween night. And that was kind of just a big shopping day for me. I was surprised by how much I ended up spending that day, but it is what it is. Over in that area in Shibuya, they actually recently got this really nice Nintendo store. Things are really separated based off of the franchise. And they have quite a handful of different titles that are there, like Zelda, Animal Crossing. Pikmin is a really, really popular out there, it seems. No Pokemon there, but right next door on the same floor is a specific Pokemon store. I went there as well, of course. I actually got to make a custom t-shirt, which was actually not that expensive. I got an Natalia Ryza wall scroll, which ended up not fitting in my suitcase, so I had to bend the plastic bars and bend them back when I got home, and it's holding together. I went to the Magnet 109, which had a handful of different stores in there. I actually found a really cool Soulsborne clothing shop. Picked up a couple of things there. The main reason I went to Magnet 109 is they have a rooftop view that you can go out to. Get a really nice view of Shibuya Scramble. It's an interesting experience. A little too crowded up there. Going to Shibuya on the weekend is generally a mistake. I would recommend against that. In Harajuku, I went to a place called Longer Longest, where they have a very long, essentially a tower of potato slices. It's a one continuous ring. Very good seasoning on it too. I really enjoyed it. I went to the Sailor Moon store because I need to get new Sailor Moon merchandise. On the outskirts of Harajuku, there is a place called the Onakuma Cafe, where you are literally served coffee through a hole in the wall by a bear. And it was an absolutely adorable experience because they keep showing a sign asking you questions like, are you on vacation? Where are you from? The coffee was not that great, but I'm a coffee snob, but it was definitely worth it for the experience of going there. The next day, October 30th, Monday, I checked out things around my hotel. There was a really, really amazing shrine not far from the hotel. Got a ton of pictures. Incredibly peaceful and serene. Bought a couple of charms there. One as a gift, one for myself. I went to, there's a coffee place that I really like out in Tokyo, where they will sit down with you, talk about what kind of coffee you like, and they will make you recommendations. Now, these are very high-end beans that they are offering with a price to match. You get to try out a bean. They make you a cup there, also expensive. But the staff there, they speak really good English, so they're able to communicate with you and figure out what it is you want. Well, anyway, so I liked this place pre-COVID, and I was happy to find out that not only did they survive, they expanded and they have another store. So I went to that second one. Turns out you need to have a reservation to get in there. So I was not able to do that. I think that one is actually an even bigger experience, that you will be there like at least an hour. There was a really nice park in that area as well called Kiyosumi Garden. It was absolutely beautiful. There was a big lake in the middle for you to walk around. A lot of wildlife around, such as turtles, various birds. In general, I feel like what's interesting with Tokyo is, this is a major city, and you don't have to go far to find like a really nice, quiet park and just get in touch with nature. From there, I went down to Odaiba, which is actually one of my favorite places in Tokyo. It's actually a man-made island, and someone else once laughed at me for saying that I feel there's a lot of natural beauty there. And I think she laughed because it's a man-made island, but it's right on the ocean. Everywhere you look, you see the ocean, and it's really, really beautiful. But out there is the new Team Labs exhibit called Planets. It's not as good as the one they had before, Team Labs Borderless, but they closed that one down, unfortunately. This one had some of the same experiences, some new ones that were interesting. It was very short compared to the old one. And the worst part is there are certain parts where you have to walk through water, which means you have to walk around barefoot, and can't say I'm a fan of that. It was maybe like $20 for myself, so look into it. It's one of those digital museums where everything is like projectors and all this. It's a lot to do with lighting. It's an interesting experience. It's not as good as the one they had before. While I was editing this video, I actually found out that the old Team Labs Museum, Borderless, is reopening in early 2024. So if you're planning a trip in spring of 2024 or later, definitely check into it. It looks like it's actually going to be over in Roppongi instead. If you are deciding between one or the other, I highly, highly recommend going to Borderless instead of Planets then. One of the main attractions out in Odaiba is, of course, the Gundam Unicorn statue. That one, at night, when it can be all lit up and in the dark, they actually do shows where they project an opening from one of the Gundam series on the wall. They play the music, the Gundam itself lights up, it has some movement in accordance with the music. Really cool to see. It's free, it's right outside, so I recommend checking that one out as well. So since I ended up doing Shibuya early, on Halloween I did what I meant to do on the Sunday instead. In that case, I ended up going to Meguro. The first thing I did out there was actually the Starbucks Reserve Roastery. Now I know how that may sound. Starbucks is nothing special here in the US. This in particular is a very special location where they are roasting the beans in the building and getting them straight to you. So it's some of the best coffee Starbucks will ever serve, with the baristas making it fresh, using a pour over or French press. You get to choose. I got a flight of coffee. They gave me 3 different blends from 3 different locations. I also got some tiramisu on the side. Really, really amazing. It was a great experience. Watching real baristas at work is like watching an artist paint, especially for someone like me who is really into coffee. It's magic seeing it happen like that. And seeing them use some of the same brand name stuff I use makes me feel better about what I'm doing. After that, I hung out around Meguro for a bit. During cherry blossom season, it is one of the best places you can go. Obviously, this is October. Cherry blossoms are nowhere to be found. The view of the river is really nice. You can get some really nice photos there. I went up to the Meguro Sky Garden. Fortunately, I didn't think the views were all that great. It is very high up, but there's way too much stuff in the way for you to see out and really appreciate it. The garden itself was really nice. Nice place to hang out. A lot of people up there running or walking their dogs, but as a tourist, it's not the greatest place. From there, I went to the Tokyo Photographic Art Museum. Ironically, they did not allow photography. I only went to one exhibit. The other ones didn't really interest me. It was unfortunately very short, but I did like the exhibit that I went to. After Meguro, I actually ended up deciding to be a little irresponsible and went out to Shibuya anyway. Truthfully, it was actually uninteresting. I think with the police lockdown, essentially, not too many people were out in costume. I mainly went so I could make the Jujutsu Kaisen reference of being there on Halloween night. But I walked around for a little bit. It was very crowded. It just wasn't really worth being down there. It was interesting seeing the police on such a lockdown and really keeping an eye on everything. Some of the streets were lined with what looked like prisoner transport buses. So you really would not have wanted to run afoul of the police that night. But it was interesting to see. I got tired of it pretty quickly, and I once again just made my way over to Akihabara and just checked out what I could there. I'd say most stores that I really want to go to out there close pretty early, 8, 9 o'clock at night. Past that, like, you can do arcades, I guess, but how much do you really want to throw away on claw machines, you know? The next day, November 1st, Wednesday, went to Shinjuku. First thing I did was the 2D Cafe. It's pretty cute. The food and coffee was actually pretty good. After that, I went over to the Kabukicho Tower, which is very reminiscent of the Millennium Tower in the Yakuza series. Which, by the way, if you are not aware, Kamurocho in the Yakuza games is pretty much shot for shot copied from Kabukicho, to the point that me, having spent hours running around in the Yakuza games, can find my way around Kabukicho. Many landmarks that you recognize in the game are there in Kabukicho. I posted on Twitter, for example, the parking lot where you fight Mr. Try and Hit Me. It looks identical. It is covered in ads. It's amazing. The red entry gate that you see in the game, that's there. I ended up going to the Sampo Museum of Art. They actually had a really nice exhibit about Vincent van Gogh, focusing on his still life, in particular sunflowers or flowers in general. Great opportunity to see Van Gogh paintings in person, which surprisingly they allowed photography on a lot of the paintings there. In Shinjuku, there is the Metropolitan Government Building. This is a good opportunity to get a nice high up view of the city for free. I hung out there for a while. Because of the time that I got there, I was able to watch the sunset over Tokyo, which is a great experience. Actually, for lunch that day, I went to Sweets Paradise. They were doing a Chainsaw Man collaboration, and let me tell you, Sweets Paradise is not a great place. So, you know, they do the collaboration food, but you can't just go in and buy the collaboration food. No, you need to go in, you pay for the buffet, the dessert buffet, then you can pay for the collaboration food, then you can go to their little shop and buy whatever little collaboration items that they still have. They were kind of cleaned out when I got there. I think I was on the tail end of the collaboration, so I just bought a few things. You know, on this trip, I feel like I noticed anime merchandise was much more heavily based on blind box stuff, acrylic stands, rather than like actual figures. It's kind of weird. I'm not crazy about blind box stuff because I want to get the item that I want. I get it with like a gacha machine, but it's weird that so much stuff out there now is blind box. And that was the case in there as well. There were a handful of things that what you saw is what you got. Other things were sealed. Good luck which character you're going to get. For dinner that night, I actually went to Ichiran Ramen. Like the yakiniku, like I mentioned earlier, that is a place that is intended to eat by yourself. You go in, you have your own stall, essentially, and you don't even see the waiters. They open a curtain and give you your food. If you want, you can add in more noodles, you can add in whatever you want. You can really customize the ramen you're getting there. And it's not bad, and pretty good price for what it is. I would recommend checking it out. Just don't think it's anything amazing, and don't wait too long. I waited maybe like 15-20 minutes, which I think was fine. I also went to a Disc Union record shop, managed to pick up a Cassiopeia record as well as Tatsuro Yamashita. In grand total, I think I brought back 3 LPs. One was Masayoshi Takanaka, the 2 that I just mentioned, and then also I got a 7-inch single from Masayoshi Takanaka. Now the next day, so I didn't talk too much about the Gundam in Odaiba because, more interestingly, I went down to Yokohama and went to the Gundam factory where they actually have the moving Gundam. Now, what I didn't realize is they actually have like a little storyline along with it, is that the parts for the Gundam actually washed up on shore there in Yokohama. So they got together, scientists and engineers, and they've put together the Gundam and they've made it actually work. You pay to get in, it's not that much. They also have catwalks around the Gundam, which you can take an elevator to get up to. That's extra, and unfortunately, by the time I got there, tickets to get up there weren't available until like 7 o'clock at night, and I didn't really feel like hanging around there. So I only saw it from the ground. I went up to their cafe, got some food there. I was able to get a nice vantage point of the Gundam that was only available to people who went to the cafe. So I actually recorded the whole Gundam moving show from there, took a ton of pictures. It was really cool to see. I also ended up buying a model of the actual Gundam there, as well as a t-shirt. I'm a little worried about putting together that model and slipping down the slippery slope. From there, I went to a park called the Sankayan Garden. Just like the other one I mentioned before, it's amazing. You don't have to go that far out of the city, and you can find these amazing disconnected parks. Big lake, you can walk around. You hear birds chirping, crows calling. As you're walking, you hear the sound of the rocks shifting under your feet. And it really grounds you and makes you feel connected with nature in the middle of a major city like Tokyo. Now this was a bit removed from Tokyo, but even Yokohama is a pretty big city, pretty busy. So to be able to find that is really interesting to me. Frankly, it was just absolutely beautiful and serene. There were a ton of stray cats there, and they were very friendly, and I wanted to take some home. From there, I went over to the Ramen Museum. This one, they recreate like a 1950s, I think, Japan. There's a handful of ramen stalls, all serving unique styles of ramen that you're able to go from one to the other, buy whichever one you want. They each offer a different thing. And what's great is they offer mini bowls. So you can easily go to like 3 stalls, try, a sampler basically, and just try these different styles. Anytime I go to Tokyo, this is one that I will go to now, just to try those different styles of ramen. After that, I went over, kind of just because it was funny to me, is there's a department store in Kawasaki, which has recognized by the Guinness Book of Records the world's smallest escalator at only 5 steps. So I got to ride on the world's smallest escalator. How many people can say that? After that, I actually swung by Shinjuku again, and went to something that I didn't have a chance to check out before. If you just saw my other video, it was Hareruya MTG. I won't go too into detail because I already have another video about it. Buying magic cards at really insane prices. If you're into Magic and you're in Japan, I highly recommend checking it out. The next day, I went to Toshima and I saw the Tokiwaso Manga Museum. Now, the building is actually an old apartment complex where several famous manga artists used to live and work together. The main reason I went there is they actually had an exhibit about Yotsuba, which was really adorable. They had a ton of original manuscript pages framed for you to check out. I love seeing these original manuscripts of manga and to see how it was in progress. Page has been drawn by the manga artist, and then words have just been taped on to the pages that they're going to go back, clean up, and get it all taken care of. After that, I went back to Akihabara once again. Checked out Radio Kaikon a little bit. There were a couple magic stores in there. They were a bit overpriced, so I didn't buy anything there. I then went and actually met with an old internet friend who I had never actually met in person before. We kind of lost touch, but as soon as she got there, things were like they used to be. We had a nice chat. It was great to talk to her, great to see her in person. We actually met at one of my favorite restaurants in Japan called Tonkatsu Wako. The best tonkatsu I have ever had. It was her first time there too as well, and I've actually asked her to share her thoughts on the restaurant because I've been raving about it for the past 4 years. and it would be great to have someone else back up what I've said about how great it is.
Hi, Mugi. I'm glad I could finally record this audio snippet for your video now that I'm no longer coughing and I sound back to normal. So let's talk about tonkatsu. So I actually don't eat tonkatsu very often because it's not the healthiest thing for me to eat. I try to avoid it when I can, but of course I will always make exceptions if I have friends visiting and they want to go to a tonkatsu place. And I have to say, out of all the ones I've been to, Tonkatsu Wako has definitely been the best one. Not just because it's delicious. It absolutely was. It was delicious. It was phenomenal. But also because we didn't have to wait that long. Because when I recall getting tonkatsu with friends during other visits, we waited like 2 hours. There were 2 other times I got tonkatsu with people, and we waited 2 hours for tonkatsu that literally tasted like every other tonkatsu restaurant in Tokyo. Like, not saying they were bad, but it's more like, okay, I'm glad I had the experience, but would I wait in line again? No. So I'm very happy that the wait time is very short at Tonkatsu Wako, and it was delicious. And I was able to get like a delicious variety set. I love getting like little sampler sets when I get tonkatsu. So it had like fried oysters and fried pork and fried shrimp, and everything was amazing. And you could get more cabbage. But yeah, and of course, the highlight was meeting you for the first time and having a very lovely chat. And the next time you visit Tokyo, let me know so we can get tonkatsu again. Same place. You know, my thoughts are pretty straightforward. It was very good, very delicious. A plus. I can definitely see myself returning, which is saying a lot more than I can say about some of the other tonkatsu places that I've been to.
Thank you, Emily. I just wanted to add to her glowing review that in addition to how great it is, it's also really cheap for the two of us, and we both left pretty satisfied with our meals. And Emily even got iced coffee. It was only about $25, and you know, Japan does not have a tipping culture, so $25 out the door for 2 really good meals, it can't be beat. Highly recommend going there. After that, I went to Ikebukuro. I also went over to the Sunshine Aquarium. I had really, really liked it when I had gone there previously. Unfortunately, I had not had the forethought to think about the fact that it was a Friday night, and aquariums are a major date destination. It was very crowded. They actually had like a Halloween theme going, even though Halloween was already over. It was like horror in the ocean or something like that. All the tanks were red. It was cool to see, but everything had a line. I ended up bailing pretty quickly, unfortunately. The next day, November the 4th, that day I got hit really hard with the end of vacation depression, and that was a rough day for me, realizing like, oh man, I have to go home. But I still tried to make the most of it. I went to the Oizumi Anime Gate. Apparently a lot of famous mangaka worked in that area. So at this train station, they have statues of particular big name anime characters. For me, it was Loom from Urusei Yatsura. Had to go out there and see her. After that, I went to the Hiei Shrine. This is an interesting one because if you've looked at any kind of Japanese destination suggestions, over in Kyoto, there is the Fushimi Inari, the Fox Shrine, where they have that like 100 red gate that you can walk through. This one, the Hiei Shrine, had something similar. It's not the same 100, but you know, you don't have to travel out of Tokyo to get to see it. Really nice place. Any shrine out there is great to visit. Just like the parks, there is a very strong nature feeling to them and helps you kind of get grounded, even though you are in the middle of a major city in the world. After there, I went back to Shibuya. I visited the coffee shop that I really loved. It's called Cafe Mamiya. Like I said earlier, they sit with you, talk to you about the beans. This one does not require a reservation. However, you end up standing in line outside for 30, 45 minutes, something like that. But it's worth it for the really good coffee beans, I swear. After that is when kind of the mood really started to get to me, and I was just kind of bumming around Shibuya for a while, just trying to enjoy being there, knowing full well I was about to leave. Honestly, just being out in Japan is amazing. even if I'm not doing anything in particular, just hanging around. I once again ended up just going to Akihabara. It's another place. I don't care what I'm doing there. I just like being out there. For me, as a big weeb, it feels like home. I'm just happy being there. Finally, we come to the end of the trip. November 5th, I didn't really plan anything in particular. I tried to pick up a few things that I had missed. So I went pretty far out and I went to the Shidohige Cream Puff Factory. They have these adorable little cream puffs that are shaped like Totoro. Very cute and great for pictures. From there, since I didn't really have any plans, I just looked over my list for things that I hadn't done and I could check out on my way back to the hotel. Since it wasn't far, I ended up going to another shrine out there. This one also had some of those red gates, not very many, but they always make for great photos. And again, shrines out there are just such a nice way to connect with nature out there, even in the middle of a major city. After that, I went over to Omotesando. It's a kind of a high-class area, some museums here and there. What I had not planned on, but I looked up one that I had been to before, the Mori Art Gallery. Turns out that they just happened to have a 40th anniversary Fist of the North Star art exhibit. There they had a ton of the original manuscript pages from the original manga. They actually allowed some photography. They had some strict rules about how you take the pictures because of copyright policies. And I picked up some stuff there. It's really cool to see the original manuscript pages, see certain parts that are whited out and corrected, see, the words that are just taped to the manuscript page. After that, it was getting kind of late, and I unfortunately had to head back to my hotel so that I could, unfortunately, make my flight back home. I had a couple people who had convinced me to take a taxi to the airport rather than ride trains, because trying to lug all your luggage through the trains is a bit tedious. Unfortunately, taxis are very expensive, and I don't think I'm going to do that again in the future. But hey, it was an experience. Again, this was my third trip. I'm already ready to go back. I don't know when, but I definitely have every intention to go back any chance I can. If I could, I would move there in a second. But anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you found this entertaining. If you've been to Japan, go ahead, sound off in the comments. Tell me what you've liked there. If you would, what you would recommend I check out on my future visits. Doesn't have to be Tokyo, because I do want to go outside of Tokyo in the future. Or if you're planning on going, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Give you some suggestions of my own. And yeah, until next time, thank you for watching.